And welcome to Hannity, and we're broadcasting from the George W. Bush Presidential Center. It's in Dallas, Texas. Tonight, for the full hour, our 43rd president will join us, along with the brave members of our military who are featured in his brand new book. It's called Portraits of Courage, a Commander-in-Chief's tribute to America's warriors. And joining us now, the 43rd president of the United States. President, Mr. President,
yes,
how are
sir.
you? Good to see you.
Good to be back with you.
Good to have you. I just now have gone through this part of your museum. I am stunned, shocked. I don't even know how to even describe it. You've only been painting 5 years, less than 5.
Yeah.
Tell us how you picked it up.
Well, I was a little antsy. I mean, when you're the president, your dance card is full.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're not the president. And so Laura and I spent a lot of time here at the Bush Center putting programs in place that'll make a difference in people's lives. I wrote 2 books. I'm staying fit. I'm mountain biking and elliptical, and you know, I play a fair amount of golf, but it wasn't enough. And so I read Winston Churchill's essay, "Painting as a Pastime," and my attitude basically was, that old boy can paint, I can paint.
You love animals, so you started painting
pets.
Pets. Jasper, you did Dana's pet.
I did,
yes.
And I did Bob the cat in
Right.
our house. I was a pet portrait painter, which is kind of hard to say. But,
yeah.
So I painted pets, and the good thing about painting pets is they really don't react when they see their painting.
So, in other words, they can't say it's good or bad?
Yeah, but the owner can. But no, I did that, and then I started getting into landscapes. And my first instructor at SMU came and said, you know, you ought to paint the leaders with whom you served. And I did. And we had an exhibition here.
Putin?
You know, yeah, Putin and Blair and Dalai Lama and Angela Merkel. You know, they were okay paintings, but the most important part of it was that I'd gotten to know them so well during the presidency, I felt comfortable painting them. And we had a personal diplomacy exhibit here, which I think is really important in life, and I know it's important for a president to get to know leaders from other countries. And I hired so I got 2 new instructors, and one of them's a young guy who paints really fine portraits. And he said, you know, you ought to paint people nobody knows. And it just dawned on me, like, boom, warriors who I'd gotten to know. And so I did. I painted all these warriors. I know every one of them. I know their stories. I had ridden mountain bikes with them. I played golf with them. And I admire them greatly. So
in the course of a year, I think there's 60-some-odd warrior paintings here.
Well, there's 60-something individuals, and on the montage, there's another 30-something. So it's about 98 warriors.
In a year?
Yeah.
That's a lot of paint. So how long would it take you to paint one person? Because I also saw the pictures of them. And I know in the book you call yourself a novice. This is not the work of a novice.
Well,
really.
I think it is, but thank you. It's that's flattering. You know, it just depends until you finish. And, you know, you really, that's one of the interesting questions for any artist is, when are you through? And I would go upstairs and be painting, you know, Milo, and look at Falkenberry's painting and said, I think I better paint on Falkenberry some more, and then go back to Milo. And so it was a process. And even when I look at him now, I kind of wish I had my paint and touch up a few things, but it never really ends.
It never ends. You're never satisfied, perhaps. I've known you a lot of years. 9/11 happens 9 months into your presidency. You were a wartime president. We were on a war footing the entire time you were there.
Right.
And I look back at the last two major conflicts in America. I look at Vietnam. We lost 58,000 people. We didn't finish the job. We left. Mm-hmm. I look at Iraq and Afghanistan, and here, many of these people that you're drawing, they won Mosul, Ramadi, Tikrit, Fallujah, Baghdad, only to, like Vietnam, or similar in my mind to Vietnam, because I thought it was the right decision. Mm-hmm. I still believe it was. But it's not the right decision if Washington politicizes it,
right,
and then gives back that which they won. Mm-hmm. Does that frustrate you? Because that frustrates me.
Yeah. You know, yes, it frustrated me. And I think what people have got to realize is this bunch of thugs can be defeated, because we did so with the surge. And by the way, the president's new national security advisor was a part of that philosophy of how to win the hearts and minds of local populations, which is necessary for victory. And we can win again. Mm-hmm. And so you've heard both presidents, after my time, say we're going to degrade and defeat ISIS. And I say, go get them, because they can be degraded and defeated. And it's very important in my mind that we do so that people know they can rely upon us. And the people, not only governments, but people on the ground, people who want to be free. And you ask some of these troops, you know, were you able to see human deprivation and improvement? And they say yes. I mean, a lot of them say to me, I love the idea that girls being able to go to school for the first time in Afghanistan, or young kids in Iraq being no longer subjected to the thuggery of these ideological, thugs.
You warned that if we pulled out precipitously and too early, I played this on my shows many times.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you were 100% accurate.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
No.
Because, we're it in terms of defeating ISIS or Al-Qaeda or whatever you want to call them. I mean, these are people that murder the innocent to advance a point of view, and it requires U.S. leadership to defeat them. And this exhibit honors those who heard the call and volunteered, and were willing to be willing to risk their lives to not only defend ourselves but to advance liberty.
Two things about you that people might not know, which I think was the underpinnings of your passion for our military. Mm-hmm. You used to always, often, would sneak over to Bethesda, sneak over to Walter Reed.
Right.
Never wanted any cameras, nor did you want anybody to know.
Correct.
You did that a lot.
I did.
And a second thing is, I was on the campaign trail with you in Jacksonville, Florida in 2004. And it was at a big stadium.
Yeah, I remember that.
Where the Jaguars play. You flew Air Force One right over as you were flying in.
That was a little bit of a show-off.
Yeah. But when you got there, you got out of your car, you went in a private room. Todd Beamer's father was in there. Other Gold Star families were in there. And I remember, because I saw it, I don't know if anyone else saw it, you came out of the room, and it was obvious you had been crying.
Yeah.
It happened a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of a crier, and when a mom hugs me and talks about her son, it it affected me.
Yeah.
On the other hand, and this is hard for many people to understand, but when you go to Walter Reed and a soldier looks at you who's lost his leg and says, "I'd do it again," or you ride mountain bikes with these troops that some of whom lost a leg who went back into combat, or a mother whose son lost their life and said, "I just want you to know my son died doing what he wanted to do," it lifts your spirit. It's
amazing people.
It is amazing. Yeah,
amazing people.
And hopefully my art is able to capture how amazing these people are.
Yeah, but it was that passion. It's not easy being a wartime president. You have to make tough decisions.
Yeah, you do. Sure.
The
toughest being to put somebody in harm's way.
Yeah. Let me ask you about the art process and how. So all of a sudden you started painting these.
Yeah.
You started with the apple and the watermelon and the cube.
Yes.
Then you went to the pets.
Bob the
then
cat.
landscape.
Right.
And then and you evolved and evolved and evolved. It's less than 5 years, and we could see all throughout this room, and we'll be showing these throughout the program tonight. There's a lot of this is pretty sophisticated work. How many hours you work in a day in the studio?
Well, some days more than others. When I'm not working here at the Bush Center promoting what we're doing here, including the vets, I'd be home maybe 3 or 4 hours. In
your man cave.
In my man cave, yeah.
I saw that Laura said that.
Yeah, and I would paint a lot. And even when I wasn't painting, I was living with these paintings because I'd go up there and, hang out with Bob the cat and look at the paintings and think about the individuals involved. See, I studied every one of their stories ahead of time.
Well, they're all in here.
Yes, they are.
You give a story with each person that you
paint. Exactly.
Portrait. Were you as angry as a lot of Americans were when you heard about all the corruption, institutionalized corruption at the VA? They literally had 2 sets of lists. And
I think that was isolated to a few centers, but yeah, of course I was. I've known the last VA director, and I know the new guy, and they are committed as best they can to excellence. And the truth of the matter is, what we need is public and private groups helping these vets. Our focus is Look, I understand waiting lines and vets being discouraged. It was the same when I was the president. There was a lot of focus on that, and there should be. But, you know, rather than being angry with the VA, we're trying to help them fix it and do the best they can. You know, one of the interesting things that I was told, and maybe it's still the same thing, same way now, but a couple of years ago, the pipeline became full for PTS and TBI.
You don't say PTSD.
No, we dropped the D. It's an injury, not a disorder. I mean, if you want some soldier to talk about their condition, you don't want them to say, I'm not going to, you know, if you talk about it, you'll be labeled somebody with a disorder. And it's an injury that can be, you know, where we can help people.
You can heal.
And not totally, of course, but, you know, enough to be a productive
Estimated
citizen.
about 250,000 soldiers impacted by PTS.
Right. And many of whom don't seek help. And so one of the great things about this show is I'm confident if they were wise, they'd be watching your show.
Of course.
And so my message is it's courageous to talk about PTS. You know, you're not less of a man or a woman.
Yeah.
Talk about it. And go to our website, bushcenter.org, and we will direct you toward groups of your fellow vets who can help you.
We got to take a break. Coming up, we're just getting things started. President Bush, he'll be with us for the entire hour. And up next, we'll meet wounded American war hero Sergeant First Class John Falkenberry and his family. Now, the story is featured in the president's brand new book, Portraits of Courage. That and more as Hannity continues from the George W. Bush Presidential Center.
John Falkenberry was born and raised in my hometown of Midland, Texas. He signed up to join the Army while still enrolled in high school. Even at that young age, John says, I was 100% sure that's what I wanted to do. John served 3 deployments, 2 to Iraq and a 3rd to Afghanistan in 2007. That July in the Korengal Valley, John's unit came under fire from both sides of a river. They took heavy casualties in the ambush. John was targeted while trying to recover the body of his company commander. I was shot by a PKM machine gun multiple times in the right upper thigh, he recounts, basically cutting my leg in half. For the next 3 years, John fought to keep his leg. Eventually, with support from his wife Sarah and doctors, he made the excruciating decision to amputate. Looking back on it, John considers it the best decision of his life. It freed him to begin his recovery in full and start running, climbing, playing golf again.
First time I saw the picture that the president painted was just, I was shocked to have the full action, the full body painting, and very much honored. I like the idea that he captured my personality and my walk and everything. He got a little smirk on the lip, and I like that. You know, I think he did a really fantastic job.
And welcome back to Hannity, and we are coming to you tonight from the George W. Bush Presidential Center. We're in Dallas, Texas. Joining us now is one of the veterans that are featured in President Bush's brand new book, Portraits of Courage, a Commander-in-Chief's Tribute to American Warriors, Purple Heart recipient, retired U.S. Army Sergeant First Class John Falkenberry, and also with us John's wife, Sarah Falkenberry, and 2 beautiful children, Haley and Jake. Hey, guys. How are you? Good to see you both.
Thank you for having us.
You were married when you had your injuries. Let's talk about what happened to you.
Well, I was deployed on my third deployment in northeastern Afghanistan, and it was pretty. It was in '07, pretty good time of the war, pretty hot, and our unit got ambushed, and I received a few gunshot wounds in the right upper thigh.
And the injuries were pretty severe.
They were pretty severe.
The femur.
They were, I mean, I looked down at my leg and it was pretty much cut in half, and I thought that it was going to be pretty bad. And it did get pretty bad, but we made it through. We were completely surrounded and we had to fight our way out, so it wasn't like I could just quit and go home.
Right.
So I had a friend come over and help patch me up. So I had some lacerations of femoral artery, missing femur, quad, hamstring, severed sciatic nerve.
Yeah, and it ended up in an amputation.
It ended up in amputation, yes, sir.
How, I guess we all try to put ourselves in other people's shoes, but it's not possible. How, you got to now go through a whole process where you come to grips with that severe injury. and now you're building this new life for yourself, which, by the way, I think anyone listening would be really proud to hear. And Sarah, your loving husband's away. You get a phone call at some point.
Yes, sir.
And did you know how bad it was from the beginning?
Like he kind of said, it was going into where he was going, being deployed to. We knew it was a rough area, and we were stationed in Germany, and I was back in Texas visiting family, and I had missed the original phone call, and as soon as I looked down and saw what the number was, I knew at that point. And
you knew before
I knew. Mm-hmm. And so.
Did they take you to Germany after?
I went to Germany for a couple days to get stabilized, and then I went straight to Walter Reed.
Right. And how long was your recovery? How long was that process?
I spent 11 months at Walter Reed. Spent 2.5 years trying to salvage the limb, and then ultimately ended up deciding to amputate below the knee.
I actually followed the case of somebody that had a similar injury, and then after 11 months and it doesn't work out, that's tough.
It was a hard decision. We did our research, and you know, people like Kent Solheim, he had a very similar injury, and he was a mentor to me in the hospital and then after, and he amputated before I did, and I went and talk to him. And
so what's important, not to do the question for you, but
yeah, could take over. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm going to.
You're the president.
Yeah. So there are two aspects to John's recovery that is very impressive. One is the physical, so he's out playing golf. The other is, you know, the mental. And one reason why I wanted to talk about John in my book is because he realized he was self-medicating.
You are?
Yes, sir.
And quit.
Drinking?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we both share the same thing. We both quit. Mm-hmm. And
I haven't quit yet, but
maybe that's why you've gained a little weight.
Oh, jeez. I come here to get beaten up. Thanks a lot. But yours is a story of great success. I mean, it really is amazing.
It takes
when
time.
The president drew this painting and you saw it, what was that like?
Oh, man. I mean, the President of the United States painted a picture of you, you know? Thank you.
He was in shock. That guy can paint?
But getting to be, because that's now a history book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now I get to be in history.
And you like that part of it. Are you happy with the painting?
I am.
All right, if you're going to be an art critic, sorry, Mr. President, 1 to 10, 10 being the best.
Go 10.
I'll definitely give him a 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
With
his
his
is
left
an
hand.
action shot.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Yeah, and so, you know, Mama may have a different view if it were up close. But, and the reason I put John and Bobby Dove there is because it's very important for citizenry to know, A, these people don't feel sorry for themselves, and B, they can go out and play golf. And he's a good golfer.
Yeah. Are you proud of your dad?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Are you proud of your dad? And you have a lot of fun with your dad? Yeah. What do you like to play the most with your dad?
Soccer.
Soccer. Okay. Who's better at soccer, you or your dad?
Daddy.
Daddy. Who's better? Dad. But you're a better dancer, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, anyway, it's an honor to meet you, and it's you guys are friends. You all. It's like hi. You walk in the room.
We
You
were
all know
both
each other.
raised in Midland, Texas.
Yeah.
We've gone through some similar things at different levels, obviously,
Yeah.
but similar things. You know, the part of the recovery and that life-changing moment and the years to come after that in history, it ends up being the easy part. That actual transition afterwards is where it becomes complicated for most.
The people that I have found are the deepest, the most introspective, the most appreciative are people that have been through really difficult challenges. Cancer, something like you went through, because they have a greater appreciation, it seems, than the rest of us that take a lot of things for granted. So we're really proud of you. It's an honor to meet you. And you have the two cutest kids in the world. And nice to meet you too, Sarah. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. Now, coming up, we'll share the story of Purple Heart recipient and American war hero, retired United States Army Staff Sergeant Spencer Milo. He's also featured in President George W. Bush's new book, Portraits of Courage. That and more as Hannity continues from the George W. Bush Presidential Center in Dallas, Texas.
Spencer Milo joined the military in 2006 as an airborne infantryman. In 2008, he sustained injuries in Iraq that led to the discovery of a tumor in his brain. The prognosis was not good. He was given 6 months to live. Fortunately, That diagnosis was wrong. The tumor was removed, giving Spencer a new lease on life. He chose to use it to continue serving in the United States Army. Spencer embarked on his second combat deployment, this time to Afghanistan. In January 2011, he was injured again and in a horrifying way. A child suicide bomber detonated 8 feet from Spencer. The experts at NICO helped Spencer rehabilitate with the therapies that worked best for him. Mountain biking was effective. Getting off the prescriptions helped a lot, and the family was at the top of the list. When I found out that my wife was pregnant with my daughter, I remembered an emotion I had overseas. In order to take care of others, you have to be able to take care of yourself. It gave me a new and reinvigorated motivator to get better and allow myself to heal.
It's pretty humbling to even have a remote thought that someone like that, a man you chose to follow and that I idolize, is going to take the time out of their busy life to paint a portrait of myself. So it's pretty humbling.
And welcome back to Hannity. And we're in Dallas, Texas at the George W. Bush Presidential Center. And President Bush is still with us. Joining us now is another American hero. He is featured in President Bush's book, Portraits of Courage, a Commander-in-Chief's Tribute to America's Warriors. Purple Heart recipient, retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Spencer Milo. He calls you Milo?
He can call me whatever he wants.
He can call you whatever he wants. You had a pretty severe brain trauma. Tell us what happened.
Well, I had two separate traumatic brain injuries, my first in Iraq and then my second, which is probably more prevalent moving forward, in Afghanistan. There was a young teenage boy right on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border in Spin Boldak that about 10 feet from me detonated himself and gave my entire platoon quite a memory.
How far away? 8 feet?
About 8 to 10 feet, probably, yeah.
Wow. How are you doing now?
I'm doing a lot better, to be honest with you. Long road, a lot of hard work, but I would say that I am definitely on the right path, and I'm grateful for it.
Okay. You see the President of the United States, he draws a portrait of you. What was that like?
Well, it made me look much better, and I appreciate that, sir.
I thought you said I took some liberties with you.
Well, yeah, I like it. I appreciated them. It's incredibly humbling to think that someone that I chose to follow and have the utmost respect and would continue to follow anywhere would take the time out of his life to do something like that for me. I mean, it's humbling, it's surreal, and it's a true honor.
How long did it take for you to get to the point where you are now, where you're now helping a lot of other vets? How long was that process of healing?
Well, I really feel like it started, probably back in 2009 after Iraq, and it's been an ongoing adventure ever since, and it's going to continue for the rest of my life.
And one way to look at it, sorry to butt in, but one way to look at it is by helping other vets, he's still healing. There was a healing process oftentimes, and this is what you'll find in this book. The healing process is accelerated when somebody helps somebody else. And that's what Spencer's doing, helping people find work.
You're helping vets find work.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing at the Bush Center as well.
Right.
You can get on bush.org, bushcenter.org, and we've got a roadmap, a veterans employment roadmap.
You said to me that there's a divide with the public sector, and maybe you actually said, well, maybe sniper on your resume, a company's not looking for a sniper,
yeah.
But aren't you looking for people that are disciplined, hardworking, willing to serve, go above and beyond?
We ought to ask Milo. He's the one helping people find work. But
yeah.
There's a language differential, and we're trying to bridge that gap so the employer understands the vet and the vet understands the employer, and that's what you're doing.
Explain how that's working out.
So I work for Hire Heroes USA, and what we focus on is transforming military service into civilian success. And a term that we kind of toss around, I guess, in the industry is civilianizing that lingo, that jargon. And like the president said, if you want to go work and you want to be a general manager at, let's just say, an auto sales place, you're not going to go in and say, well, I was a sniper. And they're going to say, well, that's great. How are you going to sell cars? Yeah. Well, snipers, some of the skills they have, the operational planning, they're so meticulous with what they do. And you talk to any sniper in the world, and they're going to tell you, we're going to be better at math than half the people I know, and probably more so. And so we really focus on highlighting the skills that they may not realize they have or just don't think about on that everyday basis. But really, they're going to be some of the, they are the future leaders.
So
of this
basically,
world.
you're translating military skills into everyday skills, but they also have that added discipline, dedication.
Correct. Yeah.
Teamwork,
all that.
personal responsibility.
Sure.
Loyal, hardworking. They're the most selfless people you're ever going to meet. And if we may not know how to do something right now, if you put the task in front of us, I promise you we're going to get it done.
How has that project worked out? How well are you doing?
We're doing really well. Last year we placed over 6,000 veterans in new careers, and I mean careers, not just jobs. And we're going to continue to do so. I think we're going to continue to knock it out of the park, and we're going to continue to educate all the employers as to what they're going to get when they hire these men and women. And we are a group of men and women that are not willing to quit, and we're never going to quit when it comes to this.
And this is now your life's vocation, your passion. This is what you love.
I will spend the rest of my life doing everything I can to help my brothers and sisters in any way.
And this is your life passion now. I know you spend a lot of time painting, but you also have golf tournaments you do. You have the
Mountain bike ride.
Mountain bike ride.
That's where I met Milo. These are good athletes, and I love it. I love riding bikes with them.
Yeah. And how many miles do you do on that trip?
We do what's called a W100, so we do 100K, 62 miles.
Right.
But over 3 days.
It's awesome.
And it's fun.
Milo, I don't know if I can call you Milo.
You can call me whatever you want to.
Sir, very nice to meet you.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for being
Thank
with
you.
us. Appreciate it. All right, coming up, we will speak with yet another Purple Heart recipient featured in President Bush's brand new book. And then later, President Bush, he'll give me a tour of this gallery where his painting portraits are on display. That and more as we continue from Dallas, Texas. Straight ahead.
Danny Casera is a man of many interests. He started playing the drums at age 2. At 7, he fell in love with baseball. He was a biology pre-med student at Xavier University of Louisiana before changing his major to music and liberal arts. Then he joined the Army. He was the first participant to compete in both my institute's golf tournament and our mountain bike ride. What makes that remarkable is that in 2005, an anti-tank mine flipped Danny's M113 armored personnel carrier in Baghdad, killing 2 of his teammates and crushing Danny's legs. Doctors asked me if I wanted them to save my legs, he recalls. I said, yeah, I came into this world with 2 legs, and I'm going to leave with 2. In 2014, Danny spoke in front of a large crowd at a dinner we were hosting during the Bush Institute's Warrior Open. He had the entire audience captivated with his story and his lessons. He was so good, I nicknamed him the Preacher.
Well, the first time I heard about it, about him painting me, made me just ecstatic. It was an honor and a privilege for 43rd President of the United States of America, taking his time out to paint me and so many others.
And welcome back to Hannity, and we are in Dallas, Texas at the George W. Bush Presidential Center. Joining us now, another American hero featured in the 43rd President's book, Portraits of Courage, a Commander-in-Chief's tribute to American warriors. He is also a Purple Heart recipient. Retired U.S. Army Sergeant Daniel Casera is with us. Good to see you, sir. It's an honor.
Nice
and
to
he's wearing my favorite Converse.
There you go.
Was it surprising the President of the United States does a portrait of you? Did you know it was coming?
I did not. It wasn't until, I want to say, maybe a Facebook post.
Yeah.
I don't even have Facebook, but someone did and sent it to me and blew me away.
What did that mean to you?
It was an honor, and just knowing that someone that has been a part of the leading the free world and just took the time. And that's what I think people need to understand. He took the time. He could have gone and withered away or cycled or golfed.
He could have done what I wanted. I've been wanting him to bash Obama for 8 years. He wouldn't open. He wouldn't say a word.
He did do that. He did not do that because this is a man of honor and integrity. And to see the 90-something portraits of great men and women shows that integrity and honor that this man has in his heart for this country.
This really means a lot to you, and I know it does for all the other guys that I talk to.
Guess what I call him?
What?
The Preacher.
Is that what you call him?
So at our events, we asked the vets to speak. He gave one of the most stirring, Speeches. I've heard a lot of speeches. This guy can speak. And
Thank you, sir.
remember that? That was
do.
awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Would you consider being a preacher?
No.
No? Okay.
I love God,
Yeah.
but I don't believe that's my calling. So.
Let's talk, Danny, about what happened to you.
Sure. So 23 September 2005, I was in South Baghdad, Iraq, and me and 5 others were in an M113 armored personnel carrier, so it's a smaller tank, basically to get us from point A to point B, and we rode over an anti-tank mine, IED, EFP, whatever it was, but it had enough power to where it flipped the tank over, killed 2 of my guys. From that, I sustained bilateral fractures to my right tibia and fibula, shattered left tibia, both of my heel and ankle bones were shattered, and a dislocated right hip.
And how did you heal? How are you now?
Healed slowly, still healing to this day.
Are those the 2 guys that died with you?
These are. I make sure
wrist?
Anytime I have a bad day, I just look down and think about their families, and it pushes me through.
I told the president, I went to Iraq. I also went into one of the hospitals there when I was there, or if I've gone to Bethesda, Walter Reed, it's embarrassing. You kind of walk out saying, these things are pretty superfluous that I think are wrong with my life. When you see the suffering that you
Tell him
go
what
through.
you told about your legs. You came in the world with.
Oh, right, yeah. So the doctors asked me if I wanted to keep my legs. The chance of me being able to walk again was pretty low, according to them. It was early on, so they hadn't seen many cases like mine. So the question was, do you want to keep them? And I told them, I said, hey, I came in with 2. I'd like to leave with 2.
So it made it harder, your recovery?
It did. It did. I remember the first time that I got out of the wheelchair to try to walk again, and I was on parallel bars, and I went half the way, with my arms, because I was strong up top. It was just, I had no mobility down below, and I'm walking, with my arms, and the physical therapist yanked on the belt that was around me and pulled me back. He said, no, that's not how this works, and just trying to put one foot in front of the other was very difficult. Because
in other words, he didn't want you relying on your upper body strength.
That is correct. Right, because when you walk, you rely on your lower body.
And where are you now in terms of all your progress?
Well, golfing and cycling.
He's one of the few vets that's played golf in our tournament and rode the W100. So I'll answer the question.
Yeah.
He's doing damn good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's a very accurate statement.
I want to know what was the speech that so inspired the president? Do you remember what you were talking about?
No, it was just about, just being there and just kind of how I felt and trying to be a voice for the men and women that were sitting there. I wanted the donors and those that were in attendance to just understand that we're not, to be looked down or saying, oh, poor warrior, poor veteran, more or less like, hey, this man or woman is at this place. What can we do to help them?
I do think a lot of people don't understand the trip to Germany, the trip to Bethesda, Walter Reed, and these guys are there for a year or longer.
Yeah, but most people, a lot of people, I shouldn't say most, a lot of people would look at Danny and say, I feel sorry for you.
You would hate that.
I really would.
I respect your courage. I think the single most special quality, character trait, is courage. And you embody it, all these other guys embody it, and Mr. President, I think that's what you capture in these guys.
Thank you, yeah.
So.
I think the thing that we ought to focus on is helping people like Danny transition, because the future of our country is very bright when you think about the Dannys of the world taking leadership roles, and that's what we're all about. That's why this book was written. How can we help these men transition? Well, this guy's awesome.
Honor to meet you.
Thank you, sir.
I think you're really supposed to be a preacher, though.
Nah, I appreciate that.
If the president says you got to do something, you got to say yes.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
No, he doesn't.
All right, we're going to come back. President Bush will take me on a tour of this gallery where his portraits of courage are being displayed. That and more as we continue from the George W. Bush Presidential Center. We're in Dallas, Texas.
This is Melissa Stockwell.
That was a great picture there. And another one. You've done a number of self-portraits.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, it looked like Alfred E. Newman.
This one with this little baby girl is really cute.
Yeah, that's Lily from Roswell, New Mexico. And I was convinced when I met his mom and dad and saw Lily in the hospital, he'd never get out. And I was shocked when I looked on the roster of people going to play in a golf tournament that Lily was on the roster. And he came and played, and they said, could he bring his daughter by to see me? And I thought it was, so the scar on his head points exactly to the little girl.
Wow.
Yeah. This brother in arms.
That's
Gannon
what you
and
call that brother in arms.
Yeah, Gannon and Schumacher. It's an experimental painting in a way, in that I didn't complete a lot of it.
What part didn't you complete? I'm looking at them.
Like here.
Yeah.
This is just, just the hint of shoes. Now, but the reason I did that is I wanted to emphasize the prosthesis. And then I love the idea of these two guys arm in arm. And both real good men.
We talked earlier about how often you'd go to Bethesda, Walter Reed. If you had to guess how many times you were over there?
Probably 6 times a year.